Welcome back to your weekly deep dive, everyone. So a traditional data center is, it operates kind of like a massive centralized power plant,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Huge output, but incredibly expensive to build.
Right, and totally rigid. If the central grid fails, everything just stops cold.
Ah.
But compare that to what we're seeing on Subnet 106.
Yeah, that functions much more like a global grid of, I don't know, independent solar panels. It's thousands of individual nodes contributing to this massive shared pool of compute power.
Exactly. And since you tuning in are already totally up to speed on the basics of Nodexo and Bittensour, we're just skipping the 101 stuff today.
Yeah, we're diving straight into the latest traction following the Nodexo 3.0 launch. Because the broader market is, well, they're finally waking up to this decentralized compute thesis.
And the milestones since that June 23rd launch are honestly pretty wild to look at. The fleet is actively expanding as we speak.
We're tracking 32 verified GPUs online right now, and those are spread out across 8 different countries.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because of the hardware variety here is what really caught my eye. You have like consumer grade RTX 4090s running right alongside these heavy hitting A100 80 GB enterprise cards.
Right, this is a completely mixed bag of silicon.
Yeah, so with a setup that fragmented, scattered everywhere, how does a network like this actually stay stable? I mean, wouldn't miners just try to game the system and claim they have a stronger card than they actually do?
You would think so, but the fix there is their proof of hardware mechanism. The network doesn't just blindly trust what a miner says they're running.
So they actually test it on the fly.
Exactly. Validators are constantly issuing these time challenges. They're basically computational workloads sized perfectly so that only the specific GPU you claim to have can actually finish it before a really strict deadline.
Oh, wow. So if you claim to have an A100, but you secretly route it to some laggy, cheaper server, you just miss the cutoff.
Yep, you miss it, and you get penalized. Period.
And to prevent spoofing the results, I know they use a system with Merkle roots on the CPU, right? Like the CPU essentially acts as this strict auditor.
Yeah, it audits a mathematical receipt of the GPU's actual work.
Right. So by forcing the CPU to handle the audit, the GPU is totally locked out of faking the final result. It physically proves the silicon actually did the heavy lifting.
That is perfectly summarized. The math just does not lie. And because these continuous checks are happening in the background constantly, the network actually maintains a 99.6% reliability rate.
That is incredible. And if you can verify hardware anywhere in the world with that kind of reliability, physical location just stops being a constraint entirely.
Which completely validates a massive macro shift we're seeing right now. I mean, people keep saying there's this huge global hardware shortage.
But there isn't, really.
No, there absolutely isn't. The world already has more than enough GPUs. The actual problem is that they're just sitting idle for huge portions of the day while AI demand completely explodes.
Right, we literally have millions of powerful chips just gathering dust. And Subnet 106 is explicitly designed to pull that exact idle compute online. It's a scalable fix.
It is the only fix that actually scales. You physically cannot pour concrete fast enough to build the centralized data centers we would need to keep up.
Okay, let me push back for a second, though. If tapping into this global idle compute is such an obvious scalable fix, why is the market only just now catching on to the thesis?
Well, think about 2 years ago. The software infrastructure to securely verify some stranger's remote GPU just didn't exist at scale.
So big tech had to build closed server farms because they literally couldn't trust outside hardware.
Exactly. The trust layer wasn't there. But now that networks like Nodexo has solved that verification piece, we are at this massive inflection point. Have you ever looked into Jevons paradox?
Is that the economic theory from the white paper, where making a resource more efficient actually causes a massive spike in its consumption?
That's the one. Like how building fuel-efficient engines didn't lower gas consumption, people just decided to drive way more often.
Right. Okay. So historically, big players built central data centers, assuming AI demand had a sort of predictable ceiling because it was just so expensive.
But Jevons paradox tells us that as decentralized networks make AI compute vastly cheaper and more accessible, demand won't stabilize. It's going to multiply exponentially.
And totally outpace whatever central data centers can physically build. So basically, Subnet 106 is successfully pulling this idle silicon online, and the market is realizing decentralized compute is the necessary future.
Absolutely. And I want to leave you with a thought on that Jevons paradox.
Go for it.
If tapping into this global ocean of idle GPUs drastically lowers the barrier to machine intelligence, what entirely new, unimaginable AI applications will we start seeing when access to computation is no longer the binding constraint.